When I kind of responded to the request to have some points to configure questions, debate and some kind of workshop activity later, in good academic fashion I abnegated my own responsibility of kind of taking a position and ventriloquised it through others. So I had 3 quotes to position terms around kind of my response to this, which is about algorithmic articulation but simultaneous delimitations of potential futures, particularly kind of some work that I've been doing around algorithmic fairness and how we can respond to this in a designerly sense. So I'm sorry that I'm just going to read material to you and you can't see it at the same time, but hopefully get it. The first is a quote from Nathan Brown out of an article called Immortality by Design, where immortality is put under erasure in the title, as is design, so it's about taking those futures away. And it says, the Constructivist Project of changing the world by remaking its materials, whether artistic mediums, industrial objects or human lives, has been expropriated by biotechnology, cognitive science, nanotechnology and artificial life into an automatic process of adjustment. A process that is of technically adjusting any and all materials to the demands of markets, regulated only by the suturing of technological capacities to financial accommodations and incentives, i.e. funding, which we know all sorts of stuff about. So that's just a kind of succinct, I think, definition or encapsulation of the current problem. The second is a kind of response from Cynthia Dwarf, who used to be one of the heads of Microsoft Research, who is now a professor of cognitive science at Stanford, who's very famous on her work on differential privacy originally, and is now working on this kind of theme of algorithmic fairness and how we can make machinic intelligence respond more equitably to diverse populations, which she says is actually kind of impossible. So responding to the question, how does this challenge compare to your earlier work on differential privacy? She says, I think this idea of fairness is a much harder problem. If there was a magical way of finding the right metric, the right way of measuring differences between people, I'd think we would have gotten somewhere by now. But I don't think humans can agree on who should be treated similarly to whom. I certainly have no idea how to use machine learning and other statistical methods to get good answers to it. I don't see how to avoid dealing with the fact that you need different notions of similarity, even for the same people, but for different things. For example, discriminating in advertising for hair products makes perfect sense in a way that discriminating in advertising for financial products is completely illegal. So this is somebody who's at the kind of, top of their field, really practically thinking through the techniques of this problem, saying that it's possibly impossible. Okay? And the last very pretentious quote is a piece from Jacques Derrida in the 2nd volume of Beast and Sovereign, where he says the idea of sharing that similarity is impossible and we are all islands and it's similarly impossible to communicate across those differential relationships. I won't read the whole thing out, but a little kind of taste of it says, the difference between one world and another will remain always unbridgeable, because the community of the world is always constructed, simulated by a set of stabilising apparatuses, more or less stable then, and never natural, language in the broad sense, codes of traces being designed among all living beings, to construct a unity of the world that is always deconstructible, nowhere and never given in nature. Between my world, what I call my world, and there is no other world for me, as any other world is always part of it, between my world and any other world, there is first the space and the time of an infinite difference, an interruption that is incommensurable with all attempts to make a passage, design a bridge, an isthmus, all attempts of communication, translation, trope and transfer that the desire for a world or the want of a world, the being worlding a world will try to pose, impose, propose and stabilise. There is no world, there are only islands. So these, for me, just encapsulate one of the kind of central problems in the attempt of machinic kind of systems of intelligence to deal with the impossibility of the differential relation of social relationships and fairness and the construction of futures. So, thank you.